Thank you so much, and it's a thrill to be here and so motivating to look out at the crowd, see so many of you here with passion and dedication and commitment, because this shows we will win. We will not be defeated when we are united. Like Pete, I've been doing things like this for many, many years. The first protest I went to was almost exactly 55 years ago. It was a sad occasion, and it's worth remembering. It was to mark the murder of 4 students by the National Guard. A really dark moment in our history. But there was something we learned then, and that is when we gathered together, we would prevail. The protests against the Vietnam War took tons of effort and years, but there can be no mistaking. The Vietnam War would not have ended when it did and in the way it did if it were not for people like us standing up to decision makers who believed they knew better than we did and who could send us in to fight their wars and lay us waste just for their policy objectives. They're trying to do that now, and that's why we are here. Why are we here? For the reason Commissioner Gerken said. As Dante said centuries ago, and as many moral beacons have told us across history, when you see a wrong, when you see illegality, when you see immorality, when you see abuse of power, you have a moral obligation to stand up and say, we will not allow this to be done in our name. But we don't need the moral voices of Western civilization to tell us to be here. Our own government is telling us to be here. The Department of Homeland Security sent out the saying, if you see something, say something. What they told us was, if you see terror in the streets, if you see people who are trying to undo your way of life and disrupt your dreams, stand up and say something. You know what? They're exactly right. What we're seeing, not only in the streets, but in the houses of government, is organized terrorism that is directed toward disrupting our way of life, taking away our freedoms, and crushing our hopes. And that's why we're here, because we are seeing something and we are saying something. So I want to tell you a few things that I've seen and tell you what I want to say about them. What we've seen is a concentrated effort planned for 4 years to undo the foundations of constitutional governance that were put in place the last time we had to rebel against a king. We tired of being under the rule of a tyrant, and so we set up a Republican form of governance that vests the power not in kings, but in the people, and not just the wealthy people, but in all of us. And it's no accident that they're trying to tear that asunder, because when we accept and assert the power that we are given in a Republican government, we will win. That's why our republic has endured for more than 200 years, and we will not be defeated this time along. Their effort is structured and it's mindful. So let me just identify a few precepts of our constitutional structure of government, and then each of you knows exactly what they're doing to try to tear it down. First, the principle of separation of powers and checks and balances. It's a beautifully designed government with 3 branches of government: the legislature, the executive, and the judicial branch. Each of them has its own role in asserting itself, but it has an equally important role in checking abuses of other forms of government. And it has worked exceptionally well for us since the founding of the Republic. But what do we see now? We see an executive who has systematically neutered the legislature and turned them into cowering, simpering yes people and rubber stampers. That's not an accident. That's why the legislature isn't doing what it is supposed to be doing. We cannot allow that to happen. The legislature is the body of government that we have that allocates money and decides what's going to be funded. But what we're seeing is the legislature is complicit in giving up that power and allowing Trump single-handedly and unilaterally to decide, I'm going to give my friends the money, I'm going to give my enemies the finger. He's taking the money away from the higher institution organizations he doesn't like, from healthcare, from CDC, from scientific research, and all of the other things that, as Commissioner Gerken says, he's deeply afraid of. He's also engaged in a terrible assault on the independence of the judiciary and the very idea of justice by ridiculing judges who don't agree with him, especially if they're Hispanic, and also by threatening every lawyer in the United States who has ever deigned to stand up to him in any way. He's attacking the independence of the legislature, and he's attacking the independence of the judiciary, and he's doing that because he has to neutralize them so he can work his tyrannical will, and we are not going to let him do that today or ever again. Another fundamental precept of constitutional governance is accountability. And has there ever been a person in American history who has had less accountability for his wrongdoings than our president? He's cheated, he's lied, he's gone bankrupt, he's stiffed contractors, not to mention he's committed crimes against women and against all of us as residents of this country. And it's time to bring accountability back into the constitutional structure. The primary means of accountability in our structure of governments is elections. So of course it's no accident that since before he ran in 2016, Trump started casting doubt on the integrity of elections. And he's still doing it by inventing these crazy theories like independent state legislatures and the like. So as Schuyler said earlier, the very most important thing we can do other than mobilize this way and support each other is to get out the vote in 2026, turn the legislature around, and then get this guy and his lackeys out of power in 2028. The rights we are expressly given in the Constitution are enumerated in a way that they have never been in Western governance ever. Those rights are specific, and most importantly, the people who wrote the Constitution said these rights are individual. They do not vary based on your ethnicity, your race, your national origin, or your wealth. That was the revolutionary idea that is embodied in the Declaration of Independence, in the preamble to the Constitution, in the Gettysburg Address, and in every governing document that we have embraced until Trump became president. Of course he's attacking those concepts, and we're here today, along with millions of people all across the country, to say this will not stand, we will not tolerate it. We are taking our government back beginning today. As others have said today, so the question is, what can we do? The first thing we can do is do not obey in advance. Gather always peacefully, but in large numbers. And when you see something, say something. As several other speakers said far more eloquently than I, find your fellows in the world, find the organizations you believe in, bond with them, and begin working at the local level. Think globally, act locally. All politics is local. We can begin now, here, just like people all over the country are doing today, to turn things around at a local level. Finally, defend the institutions that we depend on for democratic self-governance. Defend the right of free speech, defend the press, defend the judiciary, defend education, and defend institutions of higher learning from this unprecedented assault that we've been facing. We cannot allow those to stand, and they will not, because they violate what we and millions of people like us believe to the core. The people united will never be defeated. Thank you.